Leading us into this segment is our first contestant, representing the host nation, the Solomon Islands. Please welcome Miss Solomon Islands, Elsie Polosovai. Miss Solomon Islands contestant number 1 will be speaking on the topic of education.
Dame Carol Kindu once said that education is not just a right, it is a pathway to resilience, innovation, and sustainable development for the Pacific. Let us ensure every child has access to quality education as they are the future of our blue Pacific continent. Distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Pacific Island Pageant Committee, and my fellow contestant sisters. I am contestant number 1, Elsie Polosovai, your Miss Solomon Islands 2024-2025. And it is an honor that I stand here before you to speak on a topic that not only shapes individual lives, but the future of our world, education. Education is more than what happens in a classroom. It happens in our homes, our communities, and through the experiences that shape us. Yet, across the Pacific, access to quality education remains a privilege and not a guarantee. According to UNESCO, 1 in 4 Pacific children do not complete primary school. And in remote areas, students travel for hours by boat, canoe, and overcrowded transport just to reach school. And in some rural areas of the Solomon Islands, 1 teacher may be responsible for up to 50 students. Girls and children with disabilities face even greater challenges, held back by financial struggles and cultural norms. So while I enjoy my short bus rides to school, my cousins in the village still journey through rivers, dense bush just to get an education. But the challenge awaits them even when they arrive at school, as many rural schools lack textbooks, proper facilities, and trained teachers, making quality education even harder to access. So meanwhile, in some communities, boys' education is still prioritized over girls' education, which further limits the opportunities for countless young women. Education should not be a privilege determined by geography, gender, or circumstance. It should be a right, one that empowers every child in the Pacific to realize their full potential. Inclusivity means ensuring that every child, regardless of gender, socioeconomic background, ethnicity, or ability, has the opportunity to learn and thrive. But for many, this remains a distant reality. Children with disabilities in particular are often stigmatized and excluded from quality education. During a charity visit to one of the vocational training schools, I spoke with a student who shared how his disability has made him feel undervalued and often discriminated by his own community. And these are not just personal struggles, these are the barriers that hold us back as a collective to progress in our societies. So how do we break these barriers, and how do we make education truly accessible and inclusive in the Pacific? Number 1, invest in inclusive infrastructure. We must build more schools that are accessible to all children, including those with disabilities. But we also need to think beyond our traditional classroom. Mobile schools, online learning platforms, and community-based digital programs can bring education to students who face these barriers. During COVID-19, the SIBC News delivered school lessons via radio, and while in Fiji, there were solar-powered radios that brought education to remote villages. Innovations like these prove that true inclusivity means reaching every child, no matter their circumstances. Number 2, let's challenge cultural norms. We must dismantle barriers that limit girls' access to education. Providing scholarships, mentorship programs, and safe learning environments will empower girls to stay in school. As the saying goes, educate a girl, break the cycle, and power a sustainable future. Number 3, strengthen partnerships. Sustainable solutions require collaboration with government, organizations, and community. While UNESCO and UNICEF are doing a great job, there is still more work to be done. Education should go beyond the classroom. It should spark creativity, build critical thinking, and equip students with real-world skills. And by amplifying these efforts and directing resources where they are needed the most, we can create a well-rounded learning environment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Solomon Islands. Thank you for the beautiful presentation, very inspiring. My question for you is, you spoke of quality of education. How would you advocate for increased access to quality education in your community?
Thank you very much. In my own community, how I would advocate is to provide more programs for trained teachers. One of my fondest memories of school is my teachers. I really loved my teachers, and something that my mom taught me is that you don't just pick out teachers from the street to come teach in school. These are people that have been trained over years to deliver lessons. So one way I'd advocate is to get more training to our teachers, quality training, so that they can have the ability to teach our kids to the highest quality that they deserve. Thank you.
That was a beautiful answer, Ms. Solomon Islands. Now, you are a lab technician as a profession, and science can be a very boring subject, especially for the younger generation. So, how would you use your voice as Ms. Solomon Islands to encourage the students to embrace health and sciences?
Thank you so much for that question. I was waiting for a sciencey question. I would try to make it look glamorous, that it's good to have arts and science in the back of your pocket. I think often science is more of the glamorized pathways, especially for people like us who come from tribes where we have to feed a lot of people. So it's more glamorous to take a sciencey pathway when you're in university. But arts is just as important. Arts and science should always go hand in hand, and I always try to make that known. I always tell people that, I do a little bit of acting on the side. I do a little bit of traditional dancing and that on the side on top of my lab tech work. So, yeah, it's always good to make it look glamorous and make it look like someone can do two things at the same time and not just one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon Islands. Thank you so much, Ms. Solomon Islands, for your insightful sharing about education and how it shapes our future. And thank you, judges.